Hey y'all, it's your girl Edie, and I'm back with another video, and this may be one of the more realistic videos that I've ever done, because I didn't do my face, I didn't do my hair. It's literally after I've put baby girl to sleep, so it's just after 8, and I'm doing cleanup. Now, I decided that I would do this video while cleaning up because I'm actually going to show you the space in a little bit, because I'm cleaning up the space because it's used. It's her little play area, and I wanted to touch on something that's near and dear to my heart that I honestly don't even know how it will be received. I feel like it may be split down the middle. People are going to be like, oh my gosh, yay, and then there are other people that are going to be like, girl. So let's get into it. Before I actually get into it, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Click the bell so you're notified when I drop another video on my mom content. Remember, because I'm trying to be a momfluencer for the mom unity. Oh, I tickled myself. So, I am 8 months postpartum, which means my baby is 8 months. The weeks, y'all do the math. And my baby has no screen time. So, the space is the space because we utilize the space. And not only do we utilize indoor, we also utilize outdoor, especially because the weather is better. So, yeah. I wanted to tap into that. I'm not going to say it was easy because, let's be honest, we have phones, tablets, every device you can think of, laptops, TV, at the tip of our fingers. We can get anything whenever we want. But it had to be a conscious decision, and it was not easy, especially when, everywhere you go, there's a screen. So, I would like to protect my child's brain development. I'd like to protect her cognitive functioning. I'd like to protect her overall development. And in doing so, baby girl has not had a screen. She's not had screen time, but that also means that your girl has had to tap into her creative bag, and we make playtime fun. We have mommy and me playtime. And then we have independent playtime where some of what in here transpires. And also have our reading corner, etc., etc. Not an easy feat, but we had to sit down and say, Self said, if we're going to do this, we got to do this. We got to do the work, put in the time, put in the effort. And so I want to get into that. I want to get into my experience thus far. I want to get into the hardships, the benefits, the why am I doing this, the whole shebang. So as I said, let me show you the space and then I'll get into the video. Okay, sounds good. This is the reading corner. It's clearly my treadmill. Sometimes we're over here, but this is the major play area. Have this bin with her toys that clearly she took everything out of. So we set it up for the new day for us to run amok anew. And yeah. Okay. So I have my laptop here because I want to give you guys actual information because I did do research. So here's part of the reason why we went screen free. So as I said before, supports brain development. As we know, babies' brains grow very rapidly and they're soaking up information. They're sponges. So why not soak up things that actively have them using all their senses, touching, seeing, hearing, all that stuff, tasting. And screens can sometimes limit that. It helps in their language development when you have face-to-face contact. I know some people could argue that yes, watching shows like Miss Rachel and Gracie's Corner can also do that. But it also helps them with their attention span and their focus. So having that face to face. Screens can sometimes be rapid. As we know, like there's this big thing now where they're talking about overstimulating versus overstimulating shows now versus shows from like the early 90s that weren't as stimulating. Apparently promotes better sleep. So that's something that's good. And we know sleep is important for babies' overall development. Screen free also encourages more movement, which improves their motor skills, fine motor skills, so touching and holding and all that stuff. Standing up, which also helps with their coordination, which, as you know, as they're growing, they're just learning how to do. It encourages bonding, so as I said, more eye contact, more physical touch, more contact with those around them. And it helps to build their imagination and problem solving. So as I mentioned before, there's a bit of independent play that happens in this area. And the independent play would also help her tap into her creativity or use her imagination with any of these toys. I mean, she's also very young, so I'm not sure what's really happening there. Arguably, screen times can reduce behavioral issues, and it sets baby up for better overall health. It also helps baby learn how to cope on their own as opposed to having to cope with a screen. And lastly, it fosters social skills, right? Being able to interact with those around you as opposed to interacting with a screen. So those are some of the few key points that made me say, woo, we're flipping away all the screens. And let me be clear, I'm not saying baby will never have a screen. Okay? These need to go over in the book corner. I'm just saying that for the now, as her brain is developing very rapidly and she's young, she doesn't need the screen right now. And yes, if you're asking or if you have questions, let me know, put them in the comment section. Let me know if you are also a screen-free parent or if you've tapped into it, or maybe you were you used screen then came out of it, or whatever the case may be. Let me know. This is a judgment-free zone, as it always is with TMI. I'm just saying that for me, even as I think of my development throughout my childhood, and obviously as much as I can remember, because I don't think any of us remember that young, I did not have screen time growing up. Screen was a luxury. We watched TV on the weekends, and it wasn't because I didn't have cable or anything of that sort. It was to help us focus on our development at the time. Going through the different grades and the different ages and stages of life. And quite frankly, I don't feel like I missed out on anything at all. And I mean, if you consider some of the things that are out there for your kids to get access to on these same screens when they're sometimes not being monitored, it's not the best things for your kids. So yeah, but I'm not telling you what to do. I'm only telling you what I'm doing. And I know already it's a controversial topic, and that's why I want you guys to pop off in the comment section. Let me know what you're doing and how you feel, even with some of the things that I just mentioned about, some of the benefits to not having screens. But as I said, it's not that she will never have screens. It's just that in the now, she doesn't need to. Research also states that for at least the first 24 months or 2 years of a child's life, they don't need screen. 18 to 24 months. It's your preference, because it can impact their overall development. I'm just saying, do what you want with the information that's given to you. Chale! It's like I'm changing scenery. But let's get into how it's been. So it has been actually very rewarding. I'm not going to say it's easy to do it by far, because there are days where you it's almost like you don't have a routine or you're trying to figure out what to do. And I must say that I'm not the type to be like, oh, I'm a stickler, we have to do this, I have to do that. No, I definitely allow my baby to have a lot of autonomy. So even in like if we were sitting here and we were gonna read a book, I may take out 3 or 4 different books and put them in front of her, not 3 or 4, 2 or 3 in front of her, and ask her which one she'd like to read. And obviously whichever one she points at is the one we'll read for that day. So I do stuff like that, but it has been challenging, but it's also been rewarding, because as I said, there are times where it's like, oh child, like what am I gonna do? Or baby girl may not be entertained by the reading, or she doesn't want to read a book and she doesn't want to play with whatever, and that's where now I might tap into going outside or playing with the dog. As a lot of you guys know, I have a doggy, so we may tap into that, or actually I recreate different stories. So as you all know as well, I'm Christian, so I may take a book, for example, like the book about creation, and I may make a fun activity about it. As I was cleaning up over there, there was a sun, so we may play with the sun, or may sing a song regarding the sun. Like I don't want to get copywritten, so I'm not gonna sing it. Here's another little sun mirror thing. But yeah, just going through the motions sometimes can feel like, oh, but I remind myself of what the end results are and how much it will benefit the baby in the long run, because I can attest to it. I also have friends that can also attest to the whole no screen things, and how it's benefited them and or their child / children. So I have real life examples, even though I also have the research. And also you have to keep in mind that as a psychotherapist, some of these things, like when I have clients that have gone through certain things where I'm like, oh, if this, that were done, if that were done, possibly that could have eliminated this experience of a child, where it could be like a social anxiety, for example. If a child were confident in themselves, i.e. through independent play, that could eliminate some of the social anxiety that they grow into, or even the piece around with you not having so much screen time, you're also comfortable interacting with others, right? So you would be talking to people more, or as a child you'd be reaching to play with another child, as opposed to just everybody sitting there on their screen. And then when it comes time, because there will be time throughout your life where you will have to interact with people, that anxiousness that you would have received through, because you were just on screens, it wouldn't be as heightened, if that makes sense. So that's like something that's also, at least in my mind as a psychotherapist, when I think about like the anxiety component. Let me plug my little anxiety book in the meantime. I do have an anxiety journal and an anxiety ebook. I'll put it up right here on the screen so that you can take your time and go through them if you or someone you know going through anxiety. It's not child specific, even though I did say I probably want to look into doing one now that I have a baby. So pending, we'll see. Yes, so that's how it's been going. It's actually been really good. It's really good to see baby girl go through the motions and like touch and feel stuff and be so fascinated by things. And I've been around other babies, and maybe I have no recollection of it, but I just feel like baby girl's reactions are like, wow, almost so heightened and so much more different, because again, she doesn't have the interactions with screens. I also must add the disclaimer, because again, research does point to this as well. Screens don't necessarily include FaceTime. Screens are mostly include things that are like overly stimulating, or heightened. Now, if you think about yourself as an adult, what overly stimulates you? Like, what has you heightened, whether it's on your screen or even in real life? Chances are, if you're overstimulated by something, a child, a baby, would be 10 times. That number isn't like factually based, but possibly 10 times more stimulated because their brain can only absorb so much, right? So factor those things in, or like when I factor all of those things in, I become a lot more conscious of what my child takes in, right? You can think of a character like Cookie Monster. Cookie Monster to me just looks like a dirty mop. It's like ragged, rundown, unkept. And Cookie Monster has monster in its name, and a child could just interpret that as being scary. Now, you and I as adults know that Cookie Monster is not scary, just loves eating cookies. But a child may interpret that very differently, and I think that's also a piece that's coming up, or that myself and other therapists have seen in certain kids at times, because they're making different associations with different things that in our adult minds we know are innocent and we know are fun and for entertainment, but for them they receive it as scary. Think of when you're growing up. I mean, I can even think for myself that there were times when I was like 7, 8, and I was scared of something. I don't remember what it was, but like I know I had nightmares and I was scared of something. Chances are, knowing my parents, whatever I would have watched wouldn't have been anything that would have been overly scary for me to be terrified. Like, I know they weren't letting me see like actual monsters, like horror movies or anything like that. We just never watched them, and it's never a genre that we cared for. But whatever I saw in my child's mind was scary enough for me to then have a nightmare, even though the adults in the house didn't. So those are the associations that I make. Anyways, got on a little tangent there. But yes, so these are some of the things that I've done, whatever. Now let me tap into what has surprised me and what I've noticed about baby girl and maybe even myself. Yeah, I think that'll be good. But let me actually relocate to putting stuff in the bin so I'm not just holding things. Because why? Okay, so oopsie. Here's what surprised me and or us, and what's been just surprising overall. Just to see baby girl's overall development and like how aware, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have come out of the shot. Just to see how aware baby girl is of her surroundings and of people and different things has actually been really fascinating. And to be honest, if I'm being 100% honest, I didn't even notice it myself until someone else said it to me. So we were actually out in a public setting a week ago, and while we were there, she did something, and it was on a screen, and I was like, oh, look at yourself, you're on the screen. I said, this is your 2-second screen time, jokingly saying it. Then someone else in the room said, oh, she doesn't have screen time? And I said, no. And they asked how old she was, and wow, like no screen time from the beginning. And I said, yes. They're like, wow, like this is really fascinating. Like, what have you been doing? How have you been doing it? Blah, 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 blah. And we got into talking, and she said, that explains so much about her. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, don't you notice how attentive she is? Don't you notice how like she's actually like paying attention to you when you talk to her, or like she touches your face and all of these things? And I was like, interesting. And so that planted the seed. And then I went to hang out with some of my friends, and they saw her as well, and they said the same thing. They're like, Deandra, she's so curious. She notices this, like, and I'm talking about like different sounds. Like if a sound happened in another room, she's peeked. She's looking to see what's happening, if she can see what made the sound, whatever the case is. And I was like, wow, I really didn't realize. And again, because the only child I'm around is my own, it just seems normal. But to hear other people who have been around other kids, and even the first person that mentioned it, she has a child of her own, and she's like, wow, like, my child does not do this. And I was like, huh. And I looked at my baby girl and I said, I love this for you, baby girl, because, celebrate with her. That's amazing. And I know as she grows and as she gets older and she's able to speak, I'll probably be able to notice more things about her. I could also tap into some of her fine motor skills. I would say that those developed a lot sooner. I have recollection of the doctor even mentioning something that she was doing. And he's like, yeah, I got cut off. I was saying, I have a recollection of the doctor mentioning stuff that baby girl was doing, and he was like, wow, like, you're ahead of the curve or whatever, you're doing really well. And I was like, good job, love this for you, baby girl, because I celebrated with her because she'd been doing the thing. And as a first-time mom, I must say, I'm not one of those moms that's like, oh, at 3 months you're supposed to, and at 2 months you're supposed to, and 5 months you're supposed to. And I'm not sure if you saw it, but part of the paper I was cleaning up was actually that milestone checklist thing that I'll read every now and then, but baby girl really likes the sound of the paper, so she'll crumple it up. Even though we have other toys that make the same like paper sound, she likes the authentic thing. And also it's another texture for her to feel, so love that for her. But yeah, I'm not the one to be like, 2 months you're supposed to, and 3 months you're supposed to, and 5 months you're supposed to. But I will say, now that my wheels are turning and I'm connecting the dots and people have been saying what the people have been saying, I can see how she may actually have been ahead of the curve in certain things. Like her fine motor skills, as I was saying, like she could stand and pull herself up and touch and hold things a lot sooner, at least based on what everyone was saying, and even what the checklist has for the average time frame that a baby would do that. And that's because she had a lot of exposure to touching and feeling and holding. And I would also say the words when she's doing the specific thing. So whether it's like, okay, open, for her to open her hand and hold, for her to hold the item, and then I'd say let go, or I'd really say it as the Jamaican I am, let it go, and then she'd release it. But yeah, I think that this is an amazing journey that we're on. This is, maybe some might say, a random time to check in, because 8 months, like what is 8 months? But I'll check in with you guys more frequently as we continue this no screen journey. Again, not saying it's easy, but it's a challenge that I welcome. It's a challenge that really will ensure that I tap into my creative bag while ensuring that she still gets the skills and tools that she needs to be a well-rounded child/individual, right? Because again, I'm tapping in not only on the cognition rather, but I want to ensure that her motor skills are there, that she can handle herself in social spaces, that her language skills are there. So we do work on those things, not necessarily like targeted. So it's not like I'm over here saying in the reading corner saying a word and she has to learn how to say it. But I'm trying to ensure that she's equipped with all the tools that she needs to be a well-rounded little person, essentially. Yeah, and I think that may be it for my first little video about no screen times. 8 months, and we're going to continue the journey. We're going to see how it goes. Love the challenge. Love that it allows me to be creative and tap into a bunch of different ways, as I said. It's gonna be fun. Come along for the journey. Let me know in the comment section if you're a screen-free mom, or if you use screens, or if you use limited screen times, or whatever it is, and how you've been enjoying it, how you found it, any challenges you have. Because essentially, I'm not against screens, and I really hope I made that clear. And nor am I judging anybody for using screens, because I have family members who I love dearly who use screens. It's just, everybody has their preference, right? So it's not that I don't like screens, and it's not never screens. It's just that right now, no screens. As time progresses, as baby brain develops a little bit, we also have to keep in mind, like, a lot of us had X amount of years without screens ourselves. we're just into screens now because we have cell phones. But before, when we had house phones, then all we had to do was run home to watch TV on a box that would heat up because the TV box was so big and hefty. You know, like, yeah, going through the motions. But yeah, if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I hope you liked this video. Thanks for cleaning up the space with me. I do have a couple more things to put away. They're just behind the camera. And it's just 3 things. So y'all don't need to see that. So until next time, I guess. Bye.